Today I'd like to talk about future foods, but with a particular focus on assurance, standards and global market access. So a bit of context first, the New Zealand bioeconomy. Essentially, there's all sorts of definitions of bioeconomy, but you could think of it as essentially we produce biomass, plants, animals, etc., and it's the products that we make from that biomass and how we sell them around the world is a bioeconomy. Now, from a New Zealand context, this is an absolutely critical part of the New Zealand economy, particularly the export economy. So in 2025, $60 billion of export revenue, 82.5% of all the goods that New Zealand exported, 12.4% of employment and 10% of our overall GDP. And of course, within that context here in Canterbury, a very significant contributor to that. So future foods. First thing to really note is that the global food landscape is really changing significantly. So this is a really interesting graph. It shows the projected population increase for the world from 2020 to 2050 and projected a 25% increase in the global population. However, the increase in food demand significantly outstrips that. So over that same time period, projected 55% growth in food demand. And that's driven from a change in diets and income, particularly across Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, etc. So the world is already very hungry for food, and that is going to increasingly be the case. So very high demand for food. Now, of course, in New Zealand, with a population of just 5 million or so, it's estimated we feed about 40 million of the globe's population at the moment. That's about how much food we can make. And of course, we're geographically very separated from most of the markets that we send our food into. So really the opportunity here is to target those premium consumers in the premium high value markets. Consumers expect it to be delicious, to look good, to be nutritious, all those kind of things. So the what, if you like, of the food. But increasingly, and this is expected to become more and more the case, we've actually got a whole lot of other expectations from the consumer. The environmental impact of the food, how were the animals treated, and increasingly also not willing to just believe whatever they're told. So we also need authenticity and verification of these kind of credentials. Then when you layer on that increasing regulations around the world, so actually getting into markets is getting increasingly difficult with the regulations, and then layer on top of that climate change, biosecurity shocks, geopolitical disruption, increasingly like right now, but also increasingly in the future, it's going to be very important to have credible food assurance systems for all the food that we produce. For a country like New Zealand, really trust is the key differentiator. And so the focus for our food production needs to be around whole systems, holistic approach, and transparency in the production and across the value chain. The trust starts at the farm or on the orchard and travels with the product right through to the consumer. And with digital technologies kind of rapidly evolving, as you'll be aware, this is becoming increasingly expected. So where it might have been considered a bit of an advantage to have good traceability systems, it's now turned into essentially, it'll be more and more an expectation. It's going to be increasingly the case that if you can't trace everything, the food right back to where it was produced in a very, very detailed way, you're probably not going to be able to trade it at all, particularly in those premium markets. We do currently have access to premium markets, generally speaking, but we can't take that for granted, that we can just maintain that without doing anything different. Something that's made in New Zealand, generally, a food has a good trusted provenance story with it. Then on the Canterbury perspective, a lot of benefits here as well. We've got excellent research and education hub, the 2 universities, etc. We've got very innovative producers in this part of New Zealand and very supportive local government. So there's a lot of opportunities for these future foods within Canterbury. So in future foods, I guess the key message from today is trust is actually the product that we're selling when we're making those foods.